There's really nothing quite like the raw energy of a qualifier tournament is there. That sort of razor edge feeling where, every single pass, every minute can just unexpectedly flip everything. Teams go home, others rocket towards glory. It's really where those first stories get written. Resilience, triumph, sometimes, just disappointment. So today, that's exactly what we're diving into. The recent COPACCHAI Super July Central Challenge Cup qualifiers. Our mission really is to pull back the curtain for you on these crucial matches. Get beyond just the scores. Look at the tactics, the players who shone, and the tough realities of what actually happened on the pitch.
And we've got some great material to work with here. We've been looking through a really detailed report, plus a very helpful visual bracket. So together, that lets us go a bit deeper than just the results. We can give you a pretty comprehensive look at the stories underneath, the strategies for both the men's and women's sides.
Exactly. It's those stories behind the scores that make this deep dive so worthwhile if you're following the cup. So, okay, let's get straight into it. We're about to unpack what really went down in these high-stakes games. Right, let's kick off with the men's qualifiers. Stage 1, Q1. The sources pointed out that two clubs from Boy were pretty much the big favorites going in. Did that play out as expected, or were there any early shocks?
Well, one of those Boyu favorites, Tegeret Baroka, they actually they stumbled a bit right out of the gate. You picture it. Everyone's expecting a walkover, but Arslan Rakara from the Khanate of Jaisha holds them 1-1 draw first leg.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, you can imagine the whisper starting. But like true champions, Tegeret Baroka didn't just recover, they really responded. Second leg was a statement, clinical 2-0 win, silenced the doubts, propelled them forward. It's actually fascinating how fast they adjusted after that initial slip. Shows real tactical flexibility,
Yeah.
Being able to pivot under pressure like that.
That really is a powerful comeback. But then you look at the other Bai team, Marakat Palace. Their Q1 story sounds completely different, just seemed to, glide through. Comfortably beat Thursday Risapuram from Kotali Island, 4-1 and then 1-0. Did the sources give any clues why their path was so smooth, especially after Tegeret Baroka had that wobble?
Yeah, Marakat Palace's dominance in Q1 was pretty clear-cut. The report suggests they have this tactical maturity. They could exploit Thursday Risapuram's weaknesses, defensively speaking. Consistent pressure, efficient finishing. They didn't just win, they really controlled the game's tempo. Suggests a very well-drilled team.
Okay, so Q1 sets the scene. Then for the next stage, Q2, the Central Challenge Cup organizers threw in a twist. They deliberately swapped opponents between countries. So not just a change of teams, but a deliberate mix-up. Fresh matchups, forcing teams to adapt quickly. How'd that play out?
Well, that adaptation definitely tested some teams. But others, like Tegeret Baroka, again, they just seemed to keep rolling. Despite that earlier scare, they faced Sanchalite from Kotali in Q2 and, easily advanced. Double 3-0 victory.
3-0 twice.
Yeah. Consistent, clean wins makes you think maybe that first leg wobble was just, an off day.
But then Marakat Palace, who were so dominant in Q1, suddenly things got tighter for them in Q2. They face Ulus-ul Jaisha, described as the biggest club from the Khanate of Jaisha. They won both games, yes, but only 1-0 each time. That's quite a drop-off from the Q1 scoring. Did the sources hint at why? Why did Marakat Palace find goals so much harder to come by against Ulus-ul Jaisha? Was it the opponent's tactics or something Marakat were doing differently?
That's a really sharp point. Those narrow 1-0 wins from Marakat Palace against Ulus-ul Jaisha, they do expose maybe a potential weakness, specifically their conversion rate when they face really organized defenses. The report indicates Ulus-ul Jaisha used a compact low block, very effective. It limited Marakat's usual attacking style, those wide overloads they like.
Ah, okay.
So it wasn't really Marakat failing exactly, but more the opponent successfully neutralizing their main threat, forced them to rely on individual moments rather than, fluid team goals. That could be a significant thing to watch later in the cup.
Interesting tactical battle there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jaisha's last hope in the men's side, Energia Teze Kiva, they couldn't quite manage it against Satyahu from View, lost 2-1, then 2-0. So that was Jaisha's exit from the men's qualifiers. Tough break.
And then there's Olympico Intercontinental, the Giants from Dharmendra Karupe. Now, the sources mentioned they're undergoing a bit of a reconstruction, which is, quite intriguing for a club that size.
Yeah, what does that even mean for them?
Could be anything, right? Squad changes, new tactics. But even so, they absolutely trampled over Senapanayor from Kotali. A staggering 10-0 aggregate score. 4-0 and then 6-0.
10-0, wow.
It just shows, even if they're in transition, their fundamental power, their depth, it's immense. They are still a massive force no matter who's coaching or what system they're trying out.
Okay, let's switch gears now to the women's qualifiers, starting again with Q1. And right away, another really commanding performance from a Dharmendra Karube club. Julia Dovinia, they cruise past Avenir Tropical from Kotali, 4-0 and 3-0 wins. Looks like Dharmendra Karube really came prepared.
They certainly set a strong tone early on, but here's where we get a really interesting early surprise. Shows that unpredictability again. FK Leftish from Jaisha, seen as the underdog, they actually managed to upset Tialuara from Boo in the first match, 1-2-1.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, grabbed that lead. But Tialuara, well, they weren't having any of it. They rallied brilliantly in the second match, found a decisive 3-0 win, completely turned the tie around and advanced. That's more than just resilience. It's real mental strength executing under the kind of pressure.
Incredible turnaround for Tialuara, definitely. So moving into Q2 for the women, the competition seemed to ramp up. How did San Giulia Dovinia fare? They looked so dominant in Q1.
San Giulia Dovinia just kept that momentum going, rolled over FK Tenryun from Jaisha, wins of 5-1 and 4-1, just, kept their foot firmly on the gas.
And we absolutely have to highlight an amazing individual performance there. Olivia Tello for San Giulia Dovinia scored an incredible 5 goals across those 2 matches. That's just phenomenal, isn't it? Did the reports say much about her, how she managed that?
5 goals, absolutely incredible. Yeah, the sources highlighted her positioning, exceptional, and just clinical finishing. Always seemed to find space, capitalized on basically every chance. But immediately after that success, there's a pretty critical concern raised in the reports. St. Muliet apparently lost 3 players to injuries during that series, and they even complained about, quote, the tough attitude by Tenryun.
Oh, wow. 3 players.
Yeah, so it raises that question, doesn't it? What's the real cost of winning like that? Especially looking ahead in the tournament. They advanced, sure, but maybe paid a heavy physical beast.
That is a huge worry for St. Julia. A win definitely feels a bit different when you lose key personnel. Okay, what about ACT Aluwaju? After their Q1 comeback scare, how did they do in Q2? They faced Indigo Aquamarine from Kotali. Seems they did well, advanced without major risks, 2-0 and 3-1 wins. Steady progress for them.
Yes, steady is a good word. Then we had Preparatoria, also from Dharmendra Karube, described as a really strong side. And they certainly showed it against Marine Kurutal from Kotali. An offensive masterclass, really. Only conceded 2 goals across the 2 legs, but scored 13, 6-1 and 7-1 victory.
17 goals. Just overpowering.
Completely.
Although you do have to give some credit to Marine Kurutal managing to score twice against a team playing like that. Shows a bit of fight.
Definitely. And for Preparatoria, another individual standout, veteran forward Elisa scored 4 goals in the second match alone. Just brilliant. But, and here's another big but, tying back to the St. Julia situation.
Oh no, not more injuries.
Yeah. Their attacking midfielder, Olivia Domenito, picked up an injury, and the report says she might miss the entire group stage.
Oof. That's a massive blow for Preparatoria, isn't it?
Huge. Losing a creative player like that, regardless of how dominant they looked here, could seriously impact their future performance, their tactical options. Right now, if you want the definition of a tighter tie on the women's side, it was definitely Noble FC from Bai against Babadai from Jaisha. This was really close. They each won 1 game. Noble lost the first leg 2-3.
Okay, down on aggregate then.
Exactly. But then they won the second leg 1-0, which meant it was perfectly balanced on aggregate. The tension must have been, well, incredible.
And that setup, of course, the ultimate drama. A penalty shootout. After being dead even on aggregate, imagine the pressure. Noble, playing at home, they stepped up, cool as anything apparently, scored all their penalties to win the shootout 5-3. What a way to go through. You know, those moments, single kicks under that kind of pressure, just nothing beats it.
Yeah.
Did the report capture any of that drama?
It really did. The report specifically mentioned the incredible composure Noble's players showed under that pressure, noted the huge roar from the home crowd after every successful penalty, a real testament to that psychological edge of playing at home in those situations. It wasn't just skill, it was pure mental strength to nail every single penalty when it absolutely mattered.
So, okay, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you following the Central Challenge Cup? This deep dive into the COPACCHAI Super July qualifiers, it's really shown us a compelling mix, hasn't it? Expected wins, yeah, but also some genuine upsets, brilliant individual moments like Tello and Alyssa, and that brutal side, the injuries. It's such a vivid picture of how quickly things can change in football.
It really is.
Yeah.
It shows how fast those narratives can shift in a tournament. We saw teams like Olympico Intercontinental just show overwhelming strength, but also incredible resilience, like Thilo Auger's comeback, or Nobel winning that shootout under intense pressure. The stories aren't just about who advanced, they're about endurance, mental game, the tactical chess match, and, the different paths to victory and how costly they can sometimes be.
Absolutely. So as you think back on these first battles, what really stands out most to you from these qualifiers? Is it the dominant teams sending a message, or maybe those nail-biting finishes that tested everyone's nerves, or perhaps it's the impact of those key injuries on teams that looked, well, almost unstoppable? And maybe think about how these early results, these opening chapters, might influence the bigger picture of the tournament moving forward, beyond just who got through. It's fascinating to think how these first steps will shape that road to the final trophy.